All right, let's get some analysis and reaction to the president's deployment plan for the South African National Defence Force. We're speaking to the South African National Defence Union's advocate, Pikkie. Advocate Greeff, appreciate the time. Thank you. Good morning to you. Hope you're well. The president is allowed to do this, right? I just want to clear this up. He is allowed to do this without declaring a special dispensation of any sort. He's pretty much allowed to declare that he would deploy the SANDF to these areas.
Absolutely. In terms of the Constitution and the Defence Act, he does have that right, as long as he includes Parliament, regarding the numbers and the costs of such a deployment.
Yeah. What does this mean, though, for the other policing functions? I mean, do those not now come into some sort of clash here? Because you still have police on the ground, you still would have police reaction to all of this, but now the SANDF also taking part. Does that create a different kind of accountability system, etc.?
Oh, it creates a different kind of accountability system on more than one front, I'm afraid. Firstly, if what is being done is essentially crime prevention and cracking down on criminal gangs and the like, criminal activities, and that is exclusively actually a police function. Now, the fact that the Defence Force keeps on getting used as a stopgap to supplement the police, where it is actually not able to do the job that they're supposed to do, that is a rather worrying factor. And I think all of us in this country should be worried about the fact that it's being normalized, and it's been normalized now for the past 5 years, ever since COVID, that where the police cannot get to its functions, the Defence Force is now used as a stopgap to go and be deployed in the civilian world. This, of course, is not ideal. It should be absolutely the exception to the rule. It should not become the norm, and it seems that it's now become the norm. But together with that, there's another very important factor, and that is that we're looking at a hollowed-out institution like the SANDF, which is suffering from chronic underfunding, suffering from low support, low maintenance due to budgetary constraints, and yet they are expected to be doing these extra tasks without proper support and equipment. And that is very, very worrying.
Wow, so many issues actually at play when it comes to all of this. I was also wondering about the violence factor here, in that, yes, this is a deployment to help against crime as well as criminality in the form of the Zamazamas in Gauteng and the surrounding areas. But the Defence Force is not necessarily known for law enforcement, if that makes sense, the kind that the South African Police Service would be instituting. So how exactly would it work in terms of how the SANDF would be reacting? Would it be a more violent scenario do we expect here in order to try and bring things down? Are we now fighting fire with fire?
What usually happens is that the SANDF gets deployed in support of the police. The fact of the matter is, however, if you look at the kind of deployment that's taking place, especially in the gang-related areas, we know that areas are known for its violence. Of course, one can expect certain kinds of clashes to occur. The problematic issue with this is that, of course, these gang-related areas are highly populous areas, densely populated areas where there's families living in the streets. So if that violence escalates, and, by the nature of soldiering, they are not trained to do crime prevention. They are trained to engage in combat and, get rid of the enemy, so to speak. That is a very, very dangerous scenario that we're facing. And if those soldiers are not properly supported, as they are not properly being supported in current deployments as we speak, we have hungry soldiers, under-resourced soldiers in deployments. If that's going to be the same thing, it's a recipe for disaster. A soldier that's hungry and a soldier that's underpaid and under-supported loses concentration and maybe gets more aggressive. There's that potential. But I have to say also, our soldiers are very professional, but they shouldn't have to worry about these things that I've just listed when they go into a deployment like this.
Yeah, you're so right. And I mean, some might say there's even a big concern here in blurring the lines, as you made note of, between what is military and civilian security responsibilities. Concerns then in being drawn into this prolonged, what is policing roles for an extended period of time. How could that maybe weaken or impact the state of the SANDF, do you think?
Well, it will weaken the impact or it will weaken the SANDF for the simple reason that you saw the pictures there just before our interview of the parliamentarians applauding the decision to deploy the SANDF. But you know, that applause is either ignorance about what it takes to have a proper deployment, or it's just at indifference. The priority should have been, let's rebuild the SANDF. Then we can have proper deployments. At this stage, all we are doing is we're taking a hollowed out institution like the SANDF, and some generals have expressed their extreme frustration at the situation in the SANDF, and rightly so. Rightly so. And all we're doing now is taking a hollowed out institution without any guarantee of proper support, and we're putting them into an extremely dangerous situation. We're putting our society into a dangerous situation, and there's just no guarantees. So I don't know that there's anything to applaud. Obviously, now suddenly the government finds, or the state finds money to fund this deployment, while we already have deployees who came back from the DRC, who lost comrades there, who were underpaid, not properly paid. And let's keep in mind that these soldiers, we need their morale to be high. We need their preparation to be good and solid. But if we're still paying them a daily allowance on deployment that comes from a policy that hasn't been changed in 23 years,
Wow.
we are definitely not doing our best. We are not giving our soldiers what they deserve. We are really neglecting them. If we neglect our soldiers and our SANDF, we are neglecting this country. And I think we can all agree, as South Africans, we want our soldiers to do well and to be well.
Yeah, and now you have what is a very volatile situation, which could get even worse as well. Overall, Advocate, is there... In your view, can military deployment, however, sustainably reduce gang violence or illegal mining? Do you think it could work, though, if all the factors, as you made note of, are dealt with, whether it be by form of funding, ensuring that all the support is perhaps granted?
It can definitely have an impact. I think the greater question, or more relevant question connected to yours, would be why would it even at all be necessary to have the military support the police in these kinds of crime operations? That's the big question. But be that as it may, that's something for the politicians to solve, and certainly this union doesn't have a political mandate. But to get back to your question, where we deploy the SANDF properly supported, and we properly sustain them, then the operation can be properly sustained, and there will be positive results. But we must never lose mind of the fact that the way we're deploying them now, given the circumstances that soldiers face now, is an extremely, extremely dangerous situation that we are creating, potentially very dangerous.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the question then becomes also, could they be adequately trained for the crime-fighting operations, which differ significantly, one must say, to conventional military duties? Have those conversations happened? Will you be engaging with the president, or at least the presidency, with regards to that?
Oh, well, definitely. Look, as far as the training is concerned, you know, they probably most of the time the Defence Force, part of their training is that they are prepared, because it is one of the roles of the Defence Force in terms of the Defence Act to assist the police in some policing functions when, in the exceptional circumstances, it is needed. So that isn't so much a problem, as provided that there's proper support and provided that there's commitments that this deployment will not be bedeviled by the same problems that we've been seeing the past 6 years, then it can be a huge success.
Yeah. Advocate Pikkie Greeff, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it this morning as well. The South African National Defence Union's Advocate Pikkie Greeff, as we talk about the deployment of the South African National Defence Force by President Cyril Ramaphosa to the illegal mining situation out of Gauteng and a few surrounding areas, and as well the gang violence out of the Western Cape. Those are the key focuses for the SANDF.